Good evening, everybody. How are you? I feel like I've spent a very long time in front of this computer today. It's been been quite a thing, quite a day. And if you've been watching the women's channel, you will know why. But welcome. We are on the men's channel. It is Saturday Night Live, and as ever, I'm joined by a few regulars, people you would expect to be seeing, and maybe a couple of people that you wouldn't. Who knows? Depends what you like. Either way, we've got our lovely little co-host over here. Mr. RP Field, otherwise known as Dan. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Muted, living the dream.
Muted and living the dream. That's what we like to hear. Living the dream when you're muted on a channel like this, probably not the best idea. We've also got Mr. John Neville back on the show. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, very good, Barry. Thank you. Thanks for inviting us on again.
Thanks for coming on. We can always rely on Mr. Neville. And of course, Andrew of the Wall is here as well. How are you, sir?
Yeah, all good. Good to be back on.
Good to have you back on. So, what a lovely trio, a triumvirate of talking talent we have got today. But we could make it a quadruple if John Commode manages to get off of the mode of transport that he's currently on. He wasn't to join us. He's on a train, and the train, he's been stifled, stumped, I think. Somebody knew he was coming on and didn't want him on, and they had a little points failure on the trains. So, yeah, he's been delayed, poor thing. And he's currently on a bus now. He's finally managed to get off, so we will see. We will see. Before we kick off, we know it's the men's channel. Don't hate. It's the women who I just wanted to kick off very quickly because Andrew and John have both been to Liverpool. Today was a big day for the women. There was a chance, an outside chance, granted, but a chance nonetheless of a first ever WSL title win. How did it go, Andrew, and what was it like?
Yeah, it's a great atmosphere at the game today. It's a frustrating game for us. I know could have played better, but I just think started probably enjoying the game. Well, when we knew Chelsea had gone ahead and the title was out of our hands, it's almost like could relax and enjoy watching the game a bit more. But a bit of a frustrating game for us. Liverpool did a little hard to break down, but I mean, second half that goal from Lucia Garcia was like. I thought she initially fluffed her shot, and I was like, "Oh, we ain't gonna get it." And then she just struck it into the goal. I was like, "Yeah, it's great to end the season with a win as well." So I'll say it's been a good season now. League runners up, FA Cup runners up. So things can only get better for next season.
You're not kidding. Honestly, we were doing it, and obviously we have to commentate a little bit on the game. And when Garcia got the ball and then swung and missed, I'm like, and then she connected brilliantly. It's the best dummy I've ever seen. Made the goalie dive and everything. So yeah, brilliant. John, how was it for you?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, like Andrew says, there was a very good atmosphere. There was probably, I think, it was probably close to a 50-50 crowd, really. When I looked around, there was probably, as many United supporters as there was Liverpool supporters. So that made for a really good atmosphere and nice to sign off with a win. Like Andrew said, it was quite hard fought. There was Liverpool defended very well. It was just nice to finish with a win. Obviously, we went there with the slight hope that we might be able to nick the title, but unfortunately, it all went to plan for Chelsea. Unfortunately.
Yeah, I think it was always going to be one of those, wasn't it, where Chelsea were looking like they were going to do it. We kind of knew, I think, deep down that was probably going to be the case. But of course, it's the hope that kills you. It always is. And that's exactly what we have endured today. But yes, Sam Kerr and Guru Wrighton, two fantastic players, putting paid to Manchester United's hopes of a first WSL trophy, but nonetheless, a really good season and one that we can all look forward to building on next year. We mentioned that he was stuck on a bus, and here he is. He's joining us not just in spirit, but also in the comments. Clearly not much going on the buses nowadays, so here he is, saying hello from the side. So who knows? He might get back. He might be on. We will find out. And Brian straight in with his thoughts on Fulham. We must beat Fulham, but we need to make changes. I'd leave out Varane, Casemiro, Bruno, Rashford, and Martial and Shaw. And I understand why you would say that, but why we must beat Fulham and then take out our best players, I'm a bit confused about. But who knows? Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about what you're thinking there. Dan, you're sitting up over there. How's your week been with regards to Man United?
I'm a lot calmer now than I was a week ago. I'm just glad it's over quickly. We've spoke on the channel a few times about it needs to be over quickly, and we don't tend to do things quickly. It's just the United way, the difficult way. So for it to be done, the last game of the season, it's, obviously there's the home record we could go for. I think Ten Hag's got a little bit of a personal one as well, where he can beat 72 points, I think, which is Ollie's best season, which is another good one for him. So yeah, it's good that it's over, and it's good we can go into this last game and relax. But that said, I think there's a bit of a double-edged sword in Ten Hag's Arsenal going forward here, because if he picks certain players and they get injured for the cup final, he's going to be crucified. And if he doesn't pick them and we get beat, and it could say a normal loss is fine, but say we get beat 3-0 by Fulham, the fans aren't going to be happy. So it's I know it's one game and it's the last game of the season. It's not really that important. Third or fourth, no different. It's still a bit of a dodgy one for him. These people will be calling for his head, I'd imagine still. I'm not one of them. But yeah, it feels like he's got a sort of a not win game coming up, no matter what he does.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Definitely a tough one. Brian's added a bit more, said lost Anthony, can't afford to lose anymore for the cup final. That's something I'm sure we will discuss as we move along. But listen, we're going to have a quick dissection of the Chelsea game we played on Thursday. We won 4-1, and obviously we are now qualified for the Champions League. Get up there, Reds. That's exactly what we wanted. But as good as that was, it could have been a bit of a tricky start, couldn't it? I don't know if you noticed it, if you watched it, but certainly through all that I saw on the game, there was a brilliant opportunity for Chelsea to open the score, and the ball just gets whipped across the front. And how the guy has side-footed that past the post in the manner that he did, I mean, I think the corner flag was shaking in its boots. But
was that the Mudryk chance?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, that could have been a very different story at that point, couldn't it, Andrew?
Yeah, it was. I mean, literally going into that game, I thought, would Chelsea turn up? And also, in the start there, making that chance they had, I thought, oh, they're firing a warning shot here. But then we just settled, and then obviously got that free kick, and then, well, Casemiro did the rest with his header to give us the 1-0 lead, and I think that settled us down. And then, going forward, then we were just going through the rhythm game, but then he sort of got slightly disrupted by Anthony's injury, and I just think we just lost our way a little bit. And Chelsea were like firing their own warning shots. I mean, Conor Gallagher had that chance as well, and look, brilliant move to get through onto the goal, but then he just scuffed his shot wide of the post. But Chelsea had turned up. So it's, I mean, second goal we scored was just, I mean, Casemiro, I just can't laud him enough. I mean, just to do a no-look pass, I was like, just did it so nonchalantly, and then, I mean, even Sancho was there, just to square it to Martial. And it's good to see, as much as I know I want more from Martial, it's good to see he's back on the score sheet again. So just, as I say, I always want a bit more from Martial. I mean, second half, Chelsea, they knew they had to come out and be more attacking and try and get back into the game, which left us more space to counter as well. So, and I was thinking every time we looked on the attack, we was going to score. I mean, the chances we were getting, I thought we could have easily scored more than 4 that night. But the penalty was obvious for us. I don't know why Chelsea were complaining. Even when we scored it, I can't work out what they were having a go about or celebrating, or I just don't get or the fact that they were losing. And then, in the case of Chelsea seeing they just imploded. I mean, that fourth goal was like, well, they just gave us the ball, and then Rashford just settled on the rest. But overall, yeah, great to get a Champions League secured. It's where we want to be, and also it's not something we're going to take for granted. I mean, this time last season we barely scraped in the Europa League spot. So, I mean, Ten Hag's done a magnificent job to have won a trophy, and hopefully by the end of next Saturday, we're celebrating the second one underneath him. So, but the only downside of the Chelsea game was Anthony suffering that injury, because I know a few are probably saying, I think Gary Neville said it on commentary, is he really injured? Or because, like sometimes when Bruno goes down, you're just trying to get the referee to give you the foul. But as it went on, I know Ten Hag said it's serious, so hopefully it's not that serious. He might miss tomorrow's game, but then fingers crossed if he's back for the final. But we know we got other players incoming, like Rashford came off the bench and he looked very good as well. Garnacho, well, what more can I say about him? He's definitely going to make it big in the future. But yeah, overall, good win. So can look forward to tomorrow now.
Absolutely. Just going to the Casemiro goal, John. It really was a good one, wasn't it? He had the goal, obviously, at the weekend with that cracking little turnaround against Bournemouth, the way in which he twisted his body and contorted to get the ball in the back of the net. This one was an entirely different type of goal. Brilliant free kick. And just the header, the bullet header. I mean, nobody was stopping that. He was like a sniper, wasn't he? It was an absolute delight of a goal.
Yeah, it was nice to see us score from a set piece like that. It was a fantastic delivery, and you could just see it was asking to be headed in. And Casemiro made a great run in and great finish. Yes, and it set us up nicely. That did early on. I thought we were under the cosh quite a fair bit in the first half, and other than that goal, and then scoring right before half time as well, sort of put us in a really good position, to be 2-0 up after that. It was really really thankful that we managed to do that.
I mean, you mentioned coming in, John, and having that advantage, but Chelsea had a couple of chances after the Casemiro goal. There was the header, there was another shot that just went wide. Again, we're going to be talking about the fact that it was a really good performance from the likes of David De Gea, from the defence, from the team. It's all positive, but they could have had more than the goal that they eventually got, couldn't they, Chelsea? Well, we were a bit lucky, or did we make our own luck?
I think we were a bit fortunate, really, that we didn't concede in that first half. I suppose people were probably expecting Chelsea not to turn up again, as they haven't really done all season. But I suppose they got nothing to lose, so they did throw quite a bit at us. But thankfully, the shots weren't sort of troubling us that much, and I think De Gea made a couple of saves in there as well. So I think we certainly rode our luck a bit in that first half.
We absolutely did. I'm muted there myself. I've done a Dan. We absolutely did. And Dan, Andrew's already mentioned about Casemiro and the goal. His little ball through to Sancho, I think, for the little cross to Martial. Let's be clear. I mean, we'd expect Martial to score those all day long. Any day ending in a Y, basically, we're expecting him to score that. But how important do you think that could be? Both, number one, how important has Casemiro been to us this season? But how important could Martial be if, and it's a big if, I know what you're going to say, but if he stays fit and if he is put in that number 9 position?
I still think for the sake of the club and him that he'll be moved on in the summer. I don't see him staying past the summer. He could be massive before the end of the season for us, because he's no doubt going to start the 2 games, especially Anthony injured as well. Well, say 2 games, but he's probably going to start the final with Anthony injured. In terms of the game, I actually thought he was terrible in the first half. I was shocked that it was 2-0 at half time. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I would say Chelsea could have been 5-2 up at half time, 4-2. They had chance after chance and just didn't seem to take them. It was a much better performance in the second half in terms of we seemed to calm down. My biggest worry from the game was we didn't deal with runners off the ball or people running with the ball very well. They seemed to find gaps pretty easily and get through quite easily. And the goal came from the same sort of thing. Player picked the ball up, just went on a bit of a run, and we just, I don't know whether we didn't want to tackle him or what. Maybe it was 4-0, but they just didn't. I don't know. They looked off it in the first half and back on it in the second half, which we've said for a few weeks. I just think the goals came in the first half at perfect times. We started slowly and got a goal, and then just as during half time where we not performed, I don't think anywhere near the standard Ten Hag would want, we nicked another goal. So yeah, Box has made a good point there. Hall was really good. He looked thingy. But I just wanted to mention Sancho. I thought he was excellent again. I thought he was vastly improved in the last game. And then even because people are saying obviously he went to the right and he played much better, but I thought he's playing quite well on the left as well. I just thought he had a pretty good game. He's looking like he's coming into a little bit of form at the right time. He looks like he's enjoying being trusted a little bit more. But I noticed we've spoke about his intelligence as a footballer. I've noticed that the Chelsea game, he was talking to Rashford about a run that he made. And Sancho basically wasn't very happy with the run that he made because he wanted a different run. And I still think he's one of the most intelligent footballers we've got at the club. And if we can unlock him, it'll be big for him. But it's just interesting to see. But no, I'm relatively happy with what we've seen. I thought there was just bits and pieces that Ten Hag wouldn't be too pleased about in terms of the first 45. I think after that, there was a lot better. Casemiro's just been Casemiro. I think Gary Neville said that we wouldn't be in the top 4 if we didn't have him. And I think that's probably bang on. He's had the biggest impact, in my opinion, of any player in the Prem this season in terms of position finishing. We've needed him. And I put a tweet out just after the game. I don't think the football this season's been as good as it was under Solskjaer. I thought the football under Solskjaer was better. And it's not me having a dig at Ten Hag, but I think he's worked miracles to get us into the top 4, especially with the game remaining and into 2 cup finals. And what he needs is the backing that Solskjaer never got. Solskjaer wanted, we all laugh about the players, don't we? He wanted Alvarez, he wanted Haaland, he wanted Bellingham, he wanted Ake from City. And Ten Hag needs the backing from the club now, and he deserves it. He deserves the players that he wants. Like, we've been linked with Mason Mount. I don't know what the panel feel about Mason Mount, but I was quite shocked by it, especially at 80 million. Even 55 million was a bit too much. But what I will say is if Ten Hag wants him, then give him. Do you know what I mean? But we'll see. I don't think Barry agrees.
We need him. Will he impact the side like properly? I don't think he will.
No, I would agree on the face with you. I was very confused by it, but I'm at the point where exactly if Ten Hag wants him, he deserves him because he deserves a proper chance at the squad that he wants. I watch this United side and we're miles away from where Ten Hag wants to play, so I can't wait to get there.
Well, I'm sure that's exactly how John Commodious feeling on his bus at the moment, I think. So just can't wait to get there. We shall find out. Boxers agree with you.
Ronan. Oh,
Boxers agree with you. Sorry, looking for
the
right
comment from Ronan here.
Ronan, go on.
Is exactly what's wrong with football. It's just not true in every single aspect of stat to everything. We scored more transitional goals under Ten Hag than we did Solskjaer. We've got a lower defensive line under Ten Hag than we did Solskjaer. We scored less goals. We've conceded more goals. Literally every single stat points that the football was better under Solskjaer. Solskjaer's problem was some of it was during a COVID season, so it doesn't get the credit it deserves because the match-based going fans that give most of the credit weren't there to see it. So fans like Andrew would see more than what we see over the 90 minutes, and they just weren't there to pass on that stuff.
It's interesting. I mean, you say that. I mean, for me, for Ollie, as we've said before, yes, I think it was some of the best football I've seen. But then that's because we had Louis van Gaal and Jose Mourinho, who just made us thank our lucky stars that we're Man United and we play football a certain way. I can't go along with the fact it was crap. At the end of the day, he took us 4th, took us 3rd, took us 2nd. and we looked like we were going to go for first. And like I say, we bought Ronaldo, and then it all just went a little bit wrong. I don't listen. People are always going to have their points of view when it comes to Ollie. I don't know that I'd go with that. And yes, John Commode is still on the bus. Are the wheels on the bus going round and round, John? Will that happen all day long? Let us know. We'll come back to some of the other comments. I know Andrew's got a point he just wants to make about Sancho. By the way, Dan, you also mentioned the word Bits and Pieces, which is a fantastic song for the 60s. Google it if you haven't heard it. It's great. But I just wanted to kind of bring in, you mentioned Casemiro has had a massive impact for us this season. And he has. But Andrew, the question I wanted to ask you once you've said your thing about Sancho would be the following. Would you say that Casemiro has had a bigger or a smaller impact than Bruno Fernandes did when he came in halfway through the season? And I throw that one in there because Bruno then had, again, just going back to our Chelsea review as we've been doing, he had the ball from Lindelof after he won the ball just in the final third, lays the ball out, ends up coming to Fernandes, crashes the ball against the bar. Minutes later, he then goes into the penalty area. Is it a foul? Is it not? We'll find out what the panel thinks in just a moment. But he then, again, gets the penalty, scores the goal, and it puts us 3 up. So, yeah, those are your two things. Sancho and then Fernandes, Casemiro, impact. What say you?
Just quickly on Sancho, Dan making a point earlier, I think Sancho's just grown in confidence. He probably was coming to the Chelsea game, probably playing for his place in the FA Cup final. Maybe Anthony's injuries probably, swung it back to Sancho. He probably, is going to get the start now, but Sancho did his best to earn that place. I mean, in the first half, I think he had a couple of misplaced passes, but that's probably him just either not executing it or didn't make the right decision before he got his assist. But I mean, that pass to Martial will have lifted his confidence, and the second half he just come more and more alive. His passing range, he's finding that, and he was pretty much unselfish with it. So, but yeah, I just think we've seen Ten Hag get the very best out of Sancho, and he's just growing even more and more. Fernandes and Casemiro, who's had the biggest impact?
Question.
I know. I'm just like, this is so tough. I love Casemiro. It's just. We needed
you should know by now this is the sort of thing I do to you, Andrew. I never just make it easy.
Yeah. But we needed a defensive midfield, and Casemiro is just. I think even during that second half, it all looked so effortless for Casemiro. It seems like at times he was just walking around like, "Oh, I'll do what I want, and so I'll put tackles in. I'll get us moving forward." It's just like, and the pass he made for in this assisting with the second goal was just like, would anyone else try that? Probably not. So I'm just thinking Bruno's he's a constant. Bruno is in the side. I think I probably can count on one hand. Well, he's probably only missed, was it 1 or 2 games he's missed, or even just one? I just can't remember him not being inside. I think before the Tottenham game, which we drew, there was that photo of him in his foot was in a boot, and everybody's thinking, oh, Fernandes. I don't know whether that was a few mind games or was just generally just protecting because he just didn't want to, But Bruno put his whole body on the line for United, and you can see in his interview afterwards, he's saying, well, yeah, it's been a good season, but we want more. We want to be winning that Premier League, and saying like stopping Liverpool, having Champions League. Yeah, it's nice for the fans, yes, but it's like, yeah, you can see Bruno, he wants to win everything at United. I'm trying to say who's going to have the biggest impact here. I'm trying to. Oh, you really have done me here, Barry.
I grant you. It's a tough question. Do you know what? It's why I'm pleased I'm the host, because if I had to answer this question, I would struggle too. And I think the thing is, Andrew, is that Casemiro's got us into the top 4. And that's the discussion that's being had at the moment. Without Casemiro, we probably wouldn't have made it. But Bruno Fernandes has been a player who's had a ridiculous impact. He scored 62 goals in 183 appearances. This is a midfielder. He's already, when he's only been with us, a season and a half, 2 seasons? He's hardly been with us at all, really. He's already the 38th highest goal scorer in Manchester United history. I mean, to just turn around, Rodin has gone for Casemiro all day. He clearly doesn't think it's close. But again, it's just like Fernandes has done so much in the short amount of time he's been in here.
And also, during games, Fernandes, he's willing, when we're on the attack, he's willing to take the risk that risky pass or the cross, he's like, sometimes it doesn't come off, and you hear groans, but at least he's willing to try. He's like, oh, okay, that didn't come off. He'll be the one running after the opposition player, trying to get the ball back. He's not shying away of going. And like I say, being the captain, he's like fighting for United in every court, in all our corners. So just like,
and in every position as well.
Oh yeah. Or like when he goes to press, he's like saying to the rest, "Come along, I can press, but I need you with me as well, because I can't do it all by myself." And I think the team this season have been doing that. We're not just pressing as one; we're pressing together as a team, which is what Ten Hag has instilled them. So.
Well, speaking of pressing, and Andrew, we're going to do that. We're going to press you. Which one would you pick?
Bruno Fernandes. It is. He's
Fernandes.
I love Casemiro. He's just been our player of the season there. Casemiro.
He absolutely has. He's been brilliant, and it's it's a tough question, and I would apologise to you, Andrew, but I'm not sorry, so I can't. John,
don't be sorry.
It's all right. We're going to do it to these two now as well. I'm an equal opportunity person when it comes to this sort of thing. Yeah, absolutely. Well done, Dan. Next week's getting involved, throwing a few things up. Good lad. Go on, son. Helps me out. John, Casemiro, Fernandes. First of all, was it a penalty?
Well, the Chelsea game, it looked like a foul to me.
Blatant trip.
Yeah, so it was it.
We'll check Dan as well on that one. Was it a penalty, Dan?
Yeah, I'm baffled by the people saying it's not a penalty. It's so confusing. I get this tribalism in football and stuff like that, and I get like you wind people up and stuff like that, but people genuinely think it wasn't a penalty, and it's just such a clean trip. The defender literally gets Meg, trips him up, and then goes off, and he knows what he's done.
Yeah,
baffled.
Good. So we're agreed it's a penalty. It was a good penalty. So, John, talk us through what you thought about that and just his general penalty taking. You generally feel confident when he's stepping up to take one, which is really good. And then, have a go at answering the Casemiro and Fernandes question.
It was very sort of nonchalant, wasn't it? The penalty. It was very, very impressive how he just sort of trotted up, stroked it in, and celebrated. Yeah, very, very nice that was. In terms of the best signing, I mean, I suppose you've got to really give it to Fernandes for what he's done in the last sort of three and a bit seasons, 3.5 years. The amount of goals and assists he has. So I would say in terms of who's he's been the most influential signing. But certainly shout out to Casemiro for how he's sort of got us sorted out this season. He's really sort of got the team by the scruff of the neck, so to speak, and got us organised, and he's got that bit of flair and skill as well to he can pop up with goals here and there, and so he's been an absolutely fantastic signing for us this season.
Fair point. I mean, Dan, we're going to throw it to you, but I want to throw you with Dav's question here as well. You said that Bruno hasn't hit the heights of the first 18 months. And, it'd be hard, I think, when you talk about the impact that he's had, and certainly the immediate impact that he had on the club, it would have been really difficult, I think, to maintain that over an entirety of a career at a club. So he started so well that that's always going to be a tricky bar that he's set. But again, what did you think of Bruno? What's your thoughts on the Bruno Casemiro debate that I've just created? And then also, how about his interception for what was the Rashford goal? How he, again, pressed, harassed and bullied to win the ball from what was a really shocking pass, which, by the way, if David De Gea had made that pass, the world would have gone mental for us. So just throw that one out there.
I don't know. I thought it is such a tough question, by the way. It's a brilliant question. I would edge Fernandes on it just for the fact that he was literally unplayable for 2 years when he came to United. He was fantastic. I would slightly disagree with him not hitting the heights of the first 18 months, to be honest, because if you look a little bit deeper into the stats, he's sort of like highest for big chances created, highest for chances created. He's sort of, I mean, if he was behind Harry Kane, we'd be talking Harry's probably set up 35 goals this season. So I just think we'd probably miss it again. To get the best out of Fernandes, the club are just a little bit short on the pitch. which can be said about a few players. So yeah, I would edge Fernandez. Just to back up Andrew's point about Fernandez in games, I've got a few stats. So Fernandez has played 65 games this season. 65, which is 4,990 minutes for United and 733 minutes for Portugal. Over 5,000 minutes.
Did you calculate that?
5,723. No, I saw it on a tweet, and so I double checked it, and it's bob on, absolutely bob on. But that's just madness, isn't it? He's got to be the first ever player to play that many minutes in a season, in a single season. Well, an outfield player, because we know goalkeepers are a little bit different. Their stats work weird. But I just thought Fernandez was excellent. Fox pointed out that he got clipped in the first half. As I can remember it, he gets sort of clipped down the back of his leg or the back of his Achilles. I wasn't 100% convinced on that one because I think he could carry on running or not have to go down, if that makes sense. But the second one's just a blatant trip. I just thought, again, he's fantastic for us. He reminds me of what Rooney was doing when the club was struggling a bit, which was basically he'll play wherever he wants. Wherever the club need him to play, he'll play. And he will do the job that we need him to do in the short term, in the long term. I just hope we can put him back where he belongs because it'll help us no end. We really do need to get the right players in now and build on what we've achieved again.
100%. Now, obviously, we mentioned Rashford's little goal briefly, mainly talking about Fernandez winning the ball. Can we just take a moment? Because I feel like Rashford's goal was sublime and yet also ridiculous at the exact same time. And the reason why I say that is the way in which he takes the ball around the defender, shifting the ball to the left foot, taking it around him like he wasn't there. It's done so quickly. The defender had no chance. And then obviously you have the ridiculous part where he managed to, the whole goal to shoot at. He shoots at the bit where the goalie is. And then obviously it bounces back to his feet and he's able to put the ball in the back of the net, which is what all good strikers do. He followed up on it, so it wasn't a problem. But again, Andrew, Rashford this season has been just, what on earth has Erik ten Hag put in his Weetabix? Because it's mad.
I'd like to know, but you compare Rashford to last season, it's just two different people. I mean, last season it was like, I think I've said it on the show before, he was like a shadow. It was like, wasn't the same player. He wasn't taking on opposition players or he wasn't getting past the first man. Obviously, wasn't scoring as much, but I think all the upheaval last season, it wasn't just affecting Rashford, it was affecting the whole team as well. But Ten Hag has just come in and just changed everything around. I mean, I think he's on 29 goals
I think it was his 30th.
30th, yeah. Think of this, so he's already bettered his career tally, top tally of 22. So, I mean, left it late to score on there against Chelsea, but I mean, the way the ball came into him and he just like fainted and just left the Chelsea defender, and then let's say got a bit of luck when he went up under Kepa's feet, and then he just come back towards him, and then he could just hit to the open net. But I think when I was watching the game back, I think they said he's the first player since Robin van Persie scored 30 goals in the season. Wow. So it symbolises what Ten Hag's, the turnaround he's made at United as well. So Rashford, I can just only see him getting even more better, and depending on who he's alongside in the attack, if it's going to be Sancho and Antony or Sancho and Garnacho, I mean, our attack, well, whoever Ten Hag decides to bring in attacking-wise, that attack next season is going to be, I think, phenomenal. And like I say, hopefully, and if we do get Harry Kane, well, hopefully he might be firing us towards at least challenging for the title. I'm not going to say we're going to win it, at least challenging, and we put up a fight against City or whoever it may be.
Absolutely. John, you had the privilege of watching Marcus Rashford live and in person. What do you think is different about Marcus Rashford this season? Because he's always had the potential. He's always been good. How is it that this season he's been unlocked, to use the term that the kids would use nowadays? player unlocked. How is it that Marcus Rashford is now so clear of Anthony Martial? What's it all about?
He just seems to have a new lease of life almost. He just totally, so much more confident, and he's not let his head drop at all like he sort of seemed to last season. He's just really been sort of Ten Hag's got him firing on all cylinders. He's been making a lot more runs, decent runs. His finishing's improved tremendously. It's just obviously something that Ten Hag's made a little tweak, or I don't know what it is exactly that he's changed in him, but he's just a completely different player to how he was, last season, and he's just been phenomenal, really. The amount of goals he's scored, and sort of different, sort of a few different sort of types of goals as well. Nice to see him getting a few. He's had a few headers in there as well this season, and goals from outside the box as well. Just been unreal.
Do you think the introduction of Benny McCarthy has made a big difference?
Possibly, yeah. A lot of people have sort of made that connection, I think. It's perhaps just a slightly different coaching style and a few different personnel around him. Just sort of might have, helped to transform him this season.
Well, you would certainly like to hope so, for sure. Dan, we're going to finish the Chelsea review with you because we were 4-0 up. It was a wonderful moment. Everyone was feeling really pleased, but we did concede a goal. And I think the nicest way to put it was, what a crap goal it was. How was it that we allowed that much space for them to run into to begin with? Why did we keep backing off them? And how is it that we've conceded that goal? Because really, to me, that's one of the easiest goals to defend, because you just close the gap and make it difficult for them. You stop the run by making them think about what they're going to do. Why didn't we do that?
I don't know. I genuinely thought it was a problem all game, more so in the first half than the second half. But I genuinely thought there was just this standoff nature in midfield in particular. There was finding the hole in between the midfield and defence quite easy in the first half. And then in the second half, it turned into like Gallagher did it a couple of times. He just went on a run and the players just either didn't track him or didn't want to tackle him. I suppose you could argue in the back of their mind, they may be thinking there's a final coming up. I don't want to do a rash challenge and someone fall on my leg or what. It could be a lot of things. It just wasn't good viewing. I didn't think it was the world's most powerful shot either. I don't think De Gea was to blame all. I thought he had a really good game again, to be honest. Ever since we had a discussion about David De Gea and his future at the club. He's played absolutely fantastic. He's made saves that he should make. He's made saves that he shouldn't make. He's not really made any errors that have jumped out on the screen. I just think maybe they thought the game was done and it was a bit of lack of concentration. I'm just hoping that he gets. We've said all season, Ten Hag's not had a lot of training time with these players. Yes, people will say, oh, he's had the whole season, but it's been absolutely rammed. We've had 3 games every single week. He's not been able to go on a training pitch and say, right, we want to play this way. We need to do this sort of football. We want to try this tactic. He's just had to go with whatever's quick enough for a 3-day turnaround. So hopefully he can get him on the pitch and we can have a look at why he maybe wasn't closing down, and he can point out some of the, not the mistakes, but maybe lack of concentration. But I suppose it leads us into the last bit, because it's going to be interesting to see how we line up against Fulham and what he chooses to do. Is he already preparing for the FA Cup final with the players, or is he going to send a strong team out against Fulham?
Well, we will certainly get to that in just a bit. I know that was the title of today. We've left it till the end. It's the curtain closer. But there we are. Brian Foskett. Aaron Wan-Bissaka has been fantastic since the World Cup now. Worth the 50 million we paid for him, which I have to agree with. And there was a comment that was put earlier on, again from Brian. What a contributor you being today. We need to improve on our goals scored and our corners. Been crap at corners, worst in the Premier League.
Is it 5?
He did put that then afterwards, yes. Where did he put it? Oh no, it was Boxing put that. Man United 5 set piece goals this season, which is 20th ranked best at set piece, which is the polite way of putting it. We were the worst team in the league at set pieces. What is it about this? Because this isn't something that is new. It was towards the end of last season. We were talking about, Harry Maguire getting a header or doing something, scoring a goal from a set piece. We hadn't scored direct from one for something like 60 odd games even before that. How have we got so bad at set pieces? It was 108.
I'm sure it was something over 100 games that we hadn't scored.
Well, that'd be even worse if that's the case.
I think that was like the start of Sky Sports. I remember Harry Maguire said, I'm sure it was over 100. I'm sure it was over 100 games.
Well, if it's over 100, that's again. And he scored. Have we even scored one? Scored 5 since then. So it's not ideal. How is it? Because United have been one of the best at set pieces for so long. It was like a staple. You go back to 99, it was 2 corners that led to the goals that got us the win. You think back to Beckham against Greece, and it was a free kick. We don't have that, or we don't seem to have that imposing thought when we step over a set piece now that actually we're going to get something out of it. If anything, it's more just a bit of hope. Or if you're anything like me, you're just sitting there going, just beat the man in the front post. Because we never seem to do that either. Well, I mean, open to anyone, this one. Why aren't we doing better at set pieces?
It's a good question. I know we got, Eric Ramsey? I think he's brought in to help with these set pieces, but I don't know, sometimes with United, I'm watching games, sometimes Anthony and Sancho, sometimes when they're on the wings, I'm like, you can take the player on and cross the ball in. You don't have to cut back and then wait. I'm like, you can get to the byline and cross the ball in and get the ball past the first man. Even like on the corners, I think we've had Luke Shaw taking corners, Bruno this season as well. I'm trying to think who else is taking corners as well. It's like you said in 99, you had either Giggs on one side or Beckham on the other taking corners, so you had that consistency. So just maybe something Ten Hag he's working on, and with the players, it's like, let's say there's only so much time he has on the training field. He can so he's prioritising certain areas to develop. So let's say going into once the season's ended, going into the next pre-season, he'll have time to work with those players. Like with Wan-Bissaka as well. I just think great defender. He's come on leaps and bounds in attacking wise, but I just think he could do a lot more as well. And I think with Wan-Bissaka, I think Dallow's pushed him along as well. So Dallow likes to get the ball in and cross it in a lot more. So, but yeah, it's a bit of a mystery at the moment why United don't score a lot more from set pieces. But at least we've scored more than scored at least 5 this season. At least not before, like Harry Maguire. Before that it was 100. I'm sure it was over 100 games before we scored the previous one. So, but let's say it's probably something that's all been worked on, and we'll see from next season if we score more from set pieces.
Yeah, I think they had that stat running, didn't they? Every so often, I think it was like the amount of time corners we'd had without scoring that went.
That was it. Corners from scoring.
Yeah.
I'll take ridiculous. It in the FA Cup final. If we score the winning goal from a set piece, I'll take it now. But
just going back to that as regards corners, the deliveries very rarely seem to be of decent quality, and then there sort of never really seems to be anybody sort of attacking them either, sort of thing. Nobody ever seems to be really making a decent run into the 6-yard box or anything like that to try and get on the end of anything. It just doesn't seem to be any sort of, or very little thought or planning seems to go into them at all, really, I don't think.
Do you think we seem to hit a lot of them short? It comes across to me that whenever we take corners, they seem to go short.
A lot of short ones this year, I think, as well.
And sometimes I think, why play it short? Just cross the ball in. Certain time you need to play it short, just trick the opposition into doing something else. I'm just thinking, seeing that comment now, Weghorst, I'm like, well, if they can get the ball past the first man, Weghorst will, his big head would get onto it. But then from Weghorst's stats, he don't score many goals from his head, so it's all been to feet. So some of that tall doesn't score many goals is it for some reason, but
I do think it's a mixture. I think it's a mixture of the deliveries are sometimes just not there. Jarvis has mentioned Ward-Prowse. I would have took Ward-Prowse all day long until I seen him pick Alonso over Scholes in a best 11, and then I was done with him forever. But I think it's a mixture. We don't have that type of player that's willing to. I mean, Casemiro is probably the only one that will take a broken nose to win an header. They all seem a little bit reluctant to really put their head in. You could argue Martinez. Well, yeah,
if he was on the pitch.
He's not been playing. Yeah. Martinez would do it, but he's a little bit small. I think he scored one of the headers against Arsenal, did he not? If I remember rightly.
Was it a header?
It was like a looped header.
It was a loopy header, wasn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you're relying on Martinez to score your headers from corners, it's definitely a problem.
And I wish sometimes Martinez would go into the box a little bit more, but he stays back. And I'm just like, I know you're a small stature, but I'm just thinking you could just create havoc in there, and you can get on the end of a few. Because he hasn't scored. He hasn't scored a goal at Old Trafford yet. He's all scored them from away from home. So,
does it frustrate you as match goers as much as it frustrates me when you see, for example, 9 players around David De Gea causing absolute mayhem, pushing, shoving, and it's annoying, but we don't ever seem to target goalkeepers like that ourselves. I've never seen Man United stick 9 in front of the goalkeeper, big lads, Varane, Casemiro, and really cause trouble. I don't get why we don't do it.
I think we only put.
I'm scared of giving the free kicks away.
Or we just put one. I'd probably only put 1, maybe possibly 2 on the goalkeeper. It's usually just 1 on the goalkeeper, and then you've got the opposition player next to them as well. It's like we don't really do it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't know why we don't sometimes do that, put more on the goalkeeper. But if we know the goalkeeper's got a weakness, like I'm trying to think of a certain team, one player said, we knew David De Gea was a weakness, so we put more players on him because we knew we could target him. So
sounds like an Everton.
I'm trying to remember the team and the player said it might have been I can't remember if it was Everton or somebody said it. We just targeted De Gea like crazy, but we don't do it to opposition teams for some reason.
Yeah.
No, there you go. It's one of those, isn't it? Absolutely. And again, Tim Cahill, as Box mentioned, was quite good header in the ball. And to be fair, Martinez is quite good at header in the ball. But again, you shouldn't really be relying on the shorter people for that. That's what you expect the big ones to do. So there we go. Right. Listen, the result of the Chelsea game was that obviously we have transported ourselves from being Europa League wannabes into the top tier. We will be dining at the top table of European football once again as we enter the Champions League. And I'm just sort of wondering how you're feeling about this, because we all said we wanted to finish top 4. It was a massive thing for us. We all want that opportunity. Of course we do. Man United deserves to be in the Champions League. We're a big name. It's the sort of place we should be aiming to be at on the regular. But bearing in mind how things have gone this season, bearing in mind where we are, what do we think it's going to take for us to be competitive? Because what none of us want to be doing is turning up in the Champions League and then not making it out of the group stage and then going back into the Europa League. Because that is still progress, but it's not great progress, and it's not ideal. So what do you actually see happening in the Champions League? How are we feeling about it? And what do you think might be... Well, just stick at that, really, yeah. Stick on that bit for now. So, John, what do you reckon?
Well, I suppose the obvious thing is we need to improve the goal scoring. We need that somebody up top that's going to bag us around 20 goals a season, sort of thing. Obviously, that's probably been the thing that we've lacked this season. We've not really probably scored the amount of goals that we should have done in a lot of games. We've had to sort of grind out 1-0s, etc., 2-1s, that sort of thing. So we're going to have to get somebody who's clinical for the Champions League games, where we're not going to have, we might not get the amount of possession and the amount of chances that we perhaps had in, that we've had in the Europa League. So obviously, it's just who we end up get in for that number 9 position, I think.
Well, Boxer suggested, Andrew, the quarterfinals could be a realistic aim. And of course, Brian has put that we depend very much on the transfer window and on who we sign. We'll get to that part of it because that's going to be my next part of the question, really, when we go around, which will be about what do we need to do in order to be competitive. But again, what do you actually think? Obviously, you're happy to be in the Champions League, but what do you think the result of that is for Man United?
I just think, well, like I say, we're not going to take it for granted. We've been, as I said earlier on, so scrapping the Europa League spot last season. So say it's good to be back in the Champions League, and I just think Fernandez said it. Said every team that competes in the Premier League can compete in the Champions League if you do the right things. So obviously, Champions League, different scenario, but I think from reading what I read the other day, we could be having a group of death of PSG, AC Milan, and Real Sociedad. But like I say, if you want to win the Champions League, you've got to beat the best teams. That's what's going to be in front of us. And I just think it's good to be back there, as I say, at the expense of Liverpool. So it's luckily, well, hopefully we win tomorrow and we finish third, because I think in previous seasons, if we'd have finished fourth, I think we would have had to qualify. But I think all 4 go through to the group stages now anyway. So even if we had finished fourth, it was always going to be all right. But yeah, it's just be interesting. Like I say, we're going to go into the transfer window, who we bring in, and what will make us compete with those teams as well. I think quarterfinals. It's very, very, very realistic. As a United fan, I want us to go all the way and win it. That's my prerogative. I want us to go all the way.
Well, of course, you want that. I mean, if I went round the panel and everyone went, "Oh yeah, we don't want to win it anyway. We just want to make it to the round of 16," I'd be feeling a little bit let down, to be honest with you. But you're right to be realistic, Dan. What does realistic look like for you? Because I've been struggling with this for quite a while, actually, in my head. You look at the league as it's been. Primarily, you've been looking at the likes of City and Liverpool sort of dominating the league. And then it was really just a case of Arsenal, Chelsea, Spurs around there. And we were fighting for that top 4 position. And we have made it in there. We've been competitive. I mean, the Champions League gives us great memories. We've only got to think back to Ollie's game in charge of PSG, just as he'd taken over. I mean, when we talk about Ollie being crap, as people have put on here today, that moment, I was bouncing around my living room. The last time I remember bouncing around the Liverpool, around the room there, was when we were in that 99 final. Like, genuinely, I was bouncing because that idea that we'd done it in the last minute, yes, with a penalty, but all of that stuff, it really got to me. Some of our greatest moments have come in the Champions League. I think to the John Terry slip. I remember being in a pub in Stevenage watching that, and my goodness, what a time to be alive that was. It was absolutely brilliant. But are we going to be able to produce those memories next season?
Let's just never forget as well that apparently John Terry changed the order of the penalty takers. So he put himself last and then slipped and missed, which is just fantastic. I look at it really slightly differently, I think, to everybody else, because there's obviously the format of the Champions League's changing next season. So not next season, the season after. So it's top 5 next year that qualify for the Champions League, not top 4. So that makes it a little bit easier to qualify. And then obviously the whole format is then league form, and you play 8 games in a group of 36, I think, something like that. It's mental how they're changing it. It's really, really strange. So a bit like when the Premier League formed, we've got ourselves in a great position to be back in the Champions League just as the format's changing. So we need to kick on, whether it's last 16, whether it's quarterfinals. We need to use this season as a platform to kick on and make sure we're in it for the change. And obviously qualifying for it gives you you can attract better. Even though you're Man United, you should be able to attract the best players anyway. You can attract better players. We've seen Ten Hag wants to win absolutely everything, so there's no doubt he's going to be going whole hog for it. Obviously we'll talk about the signings a bit later on, but I just Ten Hag's done exactly what Solskjaer did for me. Solskjaer changed the way I looked at Man United again, from not looking forward to watching it every week to looking forward to watching it every week. And people, this is why I have such a strong defense of Solskjaer when people criticize him, because if it wasn't for Solskjaer, we wouldn't be where we are now. And I would have 100% fell out of love with United in terms of what we was watching every week. He got us to the point where we was in semi-finals of European competitions. We was in final of European competitions. We was in semi-finals of cups. And that's where a lot of people fall in love with what they're watching, because it's tense. It's massive. It takes over your life in essence. And Ten Hag's done the same thing. And this is what I mean. He's massively overachieved this season for what every United fan would have expected at the start of this season. Most said sixth and looked like lucky to reach a final, and we're in 2 finals in the Champions League, so we've got to be chuffed with it. We've just got to take it as it comes. There's no right or wrong way to take next season, in my opinion. As long as he gets the backing he deserves, which obviously we'll talk about, I'm looking forward to be honest, even Ronaldo under Solskjaer with the last minute winners. Just can't wait to see some nights like that again, to be honest.
No, I think you're absolutely spot on. And that's the thing you mentioned there, is that obviously getting to those games, the big games, the semi-finals, the finals. Yes, we had that season of just making the semi-finals and not being able to get over that last hurdle, but it's exciting. You want to get to the second half of the season. I mean, let's be honest, Shakhtar Donetsk make it to the Champions League almost every season. But are their fans really that excited? Probably not, because they just go, well, we're going to get there. We know we're going to get there. We're going to smash the league because we always do. It's like, it's boring. It's boring. And you don't want it to be boring. You want it to be exciting. San Marino are in just about every qualifying competition you're ever going to get internationally. But they know the result before they even get out there. They're delighted if they get a draw. It shouldn't be like that. You need to be in a position where you've got the opportunity to have a good result and see the latter end of the stages. Let's just have a quick look at what the comments are saying with regards to all this. So Jarvis has said a minimum of 6 or 7 signings will be required, with the necessity of at least 5 of them being evident improvements to the team. Box agrees, says it's attainable, but will we get it? Jarvis points out that it could only be 100 million budget. I don't know if that's been confirmed. It's very rare that Man United would actually come out and tell people what the budget's going to be. So that feels very much like either you've got insider knowledge, Jarvis, or you're hoping that somebody else does. And as Pog says, Jarvis, 100 million only gets you 1 Grealish. If we're dealing in Grealishes, I think we need more than 1 Grealish. Brian is a Qatar fan. I still don't think that Qatar are going to take us over at this rate. I think they might have been selling us a bit of a dream, and we're hopeful they would get more people behind them. But that's your opinion, and you're certainly welcome to have it. And yeah, we definitely need to sell. I'd be surprised if we get more than 4 players. Box does think we could go very far on the basis of the slightly inferior quality of this year's competition. And I love this comment, Brian. I love that we gave Liverpool a sniff of top 4 and then took it away, which was rather wonderful. Absolutely, it was.
It wasn't for my art.
Brilliant. Well, good for your heart, no, but I knew it would come through. John, I'm going to ask you then. We've mentioned a little bit about signings. Where do you think United would need to strengthen or change? What's the position that you would be going for in order to ensure that we get some form of success? I'm not saying win it, but some form of success in the Champions League so we can be competitive.
Well, I think, like I sort of mentioned earlier, I think it's got to be a striker, hasn't it? Martial sort of seems like he's sort of hit a brick wall or something. He's been around for a while, and we've always sort of known he's got that talent in there somewhere, but he just doesn't seem to be able to unleash it, or maybe doesn't want to. Perhaps, who knows? But we just need that sort of somebody up top that's clinical, can put himself about and can get us those big goals when we really need them, like in the big European games.
No, absolutely, that seems fair. Andrew, for you?
So once again with John, striker is definitely needed. I think one Kira could be needed, and this all depends. If De Gea doesn't sign a new contract and he's off, we're going to have to go and get a new goalkeeper. So that will be a key for us, and we've got to go out and get a really good goalkeeper. You know, that's the last line of the defence. You know, that goalkeeper's going to be the one stopping the goals going in. So, but I think Ten Hag, I don't know if it's after Thursday or maybe before that, he said, we're close with De Gea. We want him to stay. I think he does. We're there, but technically, the end of June, that we can walk out and go where he wants But if he does, I'd say thank you for the service. And then we'd have to go and find another goalkeeper. It depends what Ten Hag. Seems that he all indicates he wants David to stay, but if, he does go, then yeah, new goalkeeper will be needed and a world class one at that as well.
Absolutely. Dan, what are you thinking?
I'm a little bit different again on what's been said so far. We 100% need a striker for sure. My worry comes from he's not overly trusted the squad, in my opinion, this season. We've seen the same 13 or 14, and we've gone through some quite big sticky patches with those players. So I think that Casemiro needs... I think Declan Rice is a player that we should 100% be going for. I feel like there's a couple of players that if Ferguson was still at the club, they'd have signed by now because he would have demanded them, and that would be Kane and Rice because of what they would bring. It would settle the squad down massively. And Declan Rice is people. I think sometimes people don't realise how good he is actually on the ball. He's ridiculous, and his ability to come out from the back with the ball is one of the best in the league. I just think there might need to be a few not so big signings. Some players that maybe won't start every single game, but that he trusts to come in and deputise when maybe the first teamers aren't there. Because it doesn't seem like he's got them this season, or it hasn't come across to me that they're there. And that might be like an Ahmad coming back and being trusted to play. I do think we need one or two really big signings, and then we need just a little flutter of a couple of players that he really trusts. I find it really interesting to see him with Ziyech. He went to say hello to Ziyech at the start of the game. Then he seeked Ziyech out at the end of the game to speak to him. And I would wonder, it must be a player that he trusts because he played at Ajax quite often. I wonder if he was available for cheap, that might be an option. But I do think we just need a sprinkle of players that maybe we wouldn't expect.
Well, absolutely. He's made it. He's off the bus. He's had the walk. He was on a coach and horses at one point as well. He met Doctor Who. He's travelled all the way around the world, and he finally made it back from his Greek odyssey. But he is back. It's John Commode. Stato has arrived. Just an hour and 2 minutes late. Not bad.
I'm amazed I got that soon, to be honest, eventually.
Well, John, as you're here, we're going to give you the chance to catch up. So if you'd like to, just give us your opinion on the Chelsea game. How did you feel about that? And then let us know how you're feeling about Champions League football next.
Yeah, well, as I've been saying for a few weeks, I've been telling Dan we will get Champions League football next season.
Yeah.
I've said that I didn't feel anything. I didn't think Liverpool, while they were winning, I didn't think they were great, and I knew they'd drop points eventually in the game, which came against Villa last week. And I think, and I actually said it would be nice if one game between now and the end of the season we could convert some of the chances. And really, we should have scored more against Chelsea, to be honest. But we'll say perhaps should have. I mean, a fair scoreline would have probably been about 8-4, probably with the chances both teams had. But yeah, we're in there. It was a good performance in the end, and it was good that certain players got on the score sheet. Rashford getting his 30th goal of the season. Casemiro, how instrumental he's been throughout the season, and he's scored in the last couple of games and that. And the second goal was top class. It was wonderful team goal, and it was pleasing to see. And I did also say to Stu a few weeks back, I was if I had to pick a game where I thought we'd get in the top four or confirm it, would have been that Chelsea game. I actually said to Stu a few weeks back, Conceal's beating Chelsea 4-0. And but for Felix at the end, I would have got it right. So for me, it was a good performance. Fair play to the team, especially after we lost up the first couple of games to win the Carabao Cup, be in the FA Cup final, and to confirm top four with a game to spare. With the amount of games we've played this season, you got to give credit to the team and Ten Hag for what they've done.
Absolutely. Champions League, as we've said, next season. Add also onto that then, because that brings us literally to where we just were. Where do we need to strengthen? What's the place, the position that you would go to, John, to make us competitive in the Champions League next season?
Striker. That's a priority. We need to score more goals. Whether we will or not, I think Harry Kane would be perfect personally. And if I had to pick one, it'd be striker.
There you go. Lots of people said that. I have to agree. I think striker for me is the big one. That front three. You know, I'd love someone who's going to play that ball in a bit more, someone who's going to be a bit more of a crosser. I want all of that. I want that delivery into the box. I want someone who's going to be on the end of it, just as important. And I think in order to get that, in order to unlock that particular idea of getting the crosses into the box, you need to have the target man or the person that's going to be there and actually put the ball in the back of the net. So yeah, I can't disagree. It's what we need, and Woot is not that man, I'm afraid. So thank you for your service, Woot, but enjoy the land of the nether. Right, onwards. That's the Champions League done, dusted with for now. We need to look ahead to tomorrow, and it's the last game of the season. Finally above us. It feels like, I don't know what you guys think, but for me, it genuinely does feel like it's been the longest season known to man. I think because of having all the football that happened with the World Cup as well, and it just feels like it's been absolutely non-stop. Is that kind of how you guys are feeling?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. It's we've pretty much played, 2 games every week, certainly since we came back from the World Cup, up until this last few weeks or so, and certainly at the start of the season as well. We've been in every competition pretty much the whole way through. So yeah, it's been a bit of a marathon, you might say, this season. So yeah, well, it'll seem a bit strange when it's all come to an end after tomorrow, I think.
Really will.
Just to add on to John, I'd say it's definitely been a long old season. I was thinking when I was at the Chelsea game when we was singing Viva Garnacho, and I was thinking, well, back at the start of the season, we were singing Viva Ronaldo. I'm thinking Ronaldo's been a part of our season this year, and I'm like, it's just like all that's happened. It's like just so much has happened across the season. Like the start of it, where we've lost the first 2 games, and that Liverpool game was so. If we didn't win that, we'd have been in a lot of trouble. It's almost like that game, kick-started our season. Then we went on a run, and then the Ronaldo thing happened, and then Ronaldo went, and then we moved on. And then, as I say, it's just been a lot has changed across the whole season. So, but yeah, it's just
like say that was this season.
The Ronaldo was here. It's like it doesn't feel like he has been, but he was.
Weird, very weird. So tomorrow is a weird day tomorrow as well, for a last game of the season. So we know that the dirty blue team from across the way have won the league this season. We know that, and we know that Arsenal are going to finish second. The top 4 are decided. The European places really are pretty much decided. There's not a huge amount to fight for there. We know that Southampton are relegated. And we also know that 2 from Leicester, Leeds and Everton will be going down. really, they're the only two stories that are going on, isn't it? Is that we've got that and the fact that we still don't know who's going to finish third, whether or not it'll be us or Newcastle. So before we get on to the game tomorrow, is it important? Does it matter whether we finish third or fourth? Do you think? No, then why not?
No, I don't think it matters. It would have mattered a few years ago where fourth was a qualification game, but you're straight into the group stage. I think the prize money difference is negligible. It's not massive at all. So I don't really think it makes a difference to the season. You're still going to be in the Champions League group stages. Would it be nice to finish third? Yeah. Does it really matter? Probably not. Just thinking to myself though, I sort of see tomorrow's game maybe being the game of goodbyes for some players. So I think Maguire will get a start. Probably be his last game for the club. Could be De Gea's last game for the club. There's only 34 days left on his contract. Obviously, he'll play in the FA Cup final. Well, I hope he signs. We obviously had the discussion about De Gea, and I'm getting worried about replacing him. Let's say after revisiting my childhood and seeing just how difficult it was. It's not easy. But this Phil Jones, could Phil Jones possibly make an appearance if he's fit for 10 minutes at the end?
I don't think he can he? Because he wasn't put in the Premier League squad.
Did not get put in the squad?
Not in the squad, is he now?
That's a shame.
I'm hoping he will be there so we can give him a send-off.
A round of applause, yeah.
We're singing his name on Thursday, but hopefully he's there tomorrow.
I do think there's quite a few players that we could possibly see tomorrow that maybe we won't see next season. Alanga could be another one. Fred, McTominay. He could very well play and then not be there next season. So I suppose tomorrow's game could turn into a little bit of a testimonial type for a lot of the players that maybe will be moved on if the transfer business is done in the way it should be.
Dan went slightly further with a question than I was anticipating initially. But you crack on, mate. You do you. That's fine. What do the other three think with regard to the importance of finishing third? If we just go for a quick run round on that. Does it bother you, Andrew? You bothered about third?
I'd rather finish third, of course. I know we can't finish second or better, but I'd rather finish above Newcastle. Just stay finished.
But does it matter?
To me, yes.
Yes. Interesting. Why does it matter to you?
Well, I want United to win, so I want us to finish the highest as possible. So, yes, I want us to finish third. I want us to go out there tomorrow, win, and secure third place.
Okay, interesting. John? Neville, sorry. And that's worry about this round in 2 minutes, and all of a sudden we've hit that road again.
Yeah, I agree with Andrew. You know, we want to finish as high and as well as we possibly can, sort of thing. And it'd be nice to, stuff it up Newcastle a bit again, just to sort of, get them to park down a little bit. But I think a few people might be keeping an eye on the situation with the relegation scenario in Leeds in particular, I think, tomorrow.
Absolutely. Fulham have finished 10th as it stands. I say as it stands. They can't finish 9th. They can't finish 11th. So I was right. They finished 10th, which isn't bad for Fulham. They've done all right. Big Johnny K, what say you? Third, a problem? You bothered about it? Does it mean anything to finish above Newcastle, really?
Yeah, but I mean, like Andrew said, I want to finish with a win. I think it is, in terms of like the prize, but I think finishing third as opposed to fourth is around a £2.5 million difference. So in that regard, I mean, it's minimal, I guess, in the men's game. But someone said on the podcast, imagine, I'm not saying he'll be transferred over, but imagine what 2 million will do to the women's team, for example, but for me, yes, I think you want to finish as high as possible. And of course, if we win tomorrow, I think it'll be the joint most home wins we've had in the season, with 27, 2002-03. So yeah, I would like to finish the league season on the high, and I hope that'll give us confidence going into the FA Cup final, having won 5 in a row, is it?
I think so. There we go. Stato back with a bang. Great season for Fulham, says Box, and you're completely right. I love this again as well. You can come back again. Chelsea's third best side in West London. Genuinely, I cannot believe that Chelsea are currently 12th, and the best they can finish is 11th. That if you'd have told me that at the beginning of the season, I'd have had you committed. I think because that's just absolute madness. But there we go. So Dan started answering this, so we'll come back to him at the end of this one. I'm going to start with you, Big Johnny K. It says less rested players give us every chance to compete versus City at the optimum level. And the reason why I'm coming to Dan last is because you three have all said that actually you want to finish as high as you possibly can. There's two aspects to this, isn't there? If we rest the players, and this is kind of what Dan was saying earlier on, if we rest the players, don't win, and then we end up going to the cup final and don't win that as well, have we disrupted any momentum there, guess? But if we do play them and then we get players injured, that then mean we don't go and win the cup final, he shouldn't have risked them. I mean, he's sort of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. What do you see being the important thing to do tomorrow? Do we need to rest the players? Do we play the players? Do we do a mixture? Is it a case of doing a goodbye parade for people? What are we expecting to see? What would you do if you were ETH, John Commode?
Well, I think you still want to keep momentum. I think certain players, yes, you got to avoid. There's the risk of injury, but there's the risk of injury in any game that you play. You know, well, if a player like Casemiro, for example, if he gets injured tomorrow, as opposed to getting injured in the first minute of the cup final, doesn't make all that much difference. So for me, yeah, I personally think you will rest certain players. I think, like Dan mentioned, Maguire, I'd rest Varane tomorrow. I won't let him play. There's certain players benefit from that, whereas there's certain players who don't really need a break. And you have to remember it is a week before the cup final, so it's not like we got like a midweek game and that. So I do think he'll give some players a go, but I can see maybe even giving Garnacho a start. Also, you might see Fred McTominay or at least one of them in the midfield. And I personally do think he'll pick a couple of the main starters. Bruno always seems to start regardless, so he just never wants to be dropped or saved for anything. So for me, I can see De Gea keeping his place and that. So I do think that he will play some of the main players tomorrow, maybe bring them off at like half time if you win the game and that, and or on the hour mark, and then maybe second half if you're winning comfortably, you can bring a few of the youngsters on. So I think he'll probably go in that direction.
Sounds perfectly reasonable to me. Mr. Neville.
I think we'll see one or two changes. I think he'll definitely have the cup final in mind. So there'll be a few changes to the starting lineup, and then there'll probably be I'll probably make quite a few subs. Maybe half time or 60 minutes sort of time. So he's got everybody as fresh and available as possible for the City game. But I do think he'll want to, he'll still want to win the game. So I can't see him making like wholesale changes, even though he, like you say, Fulham have got nothing to play for. So he could, he could get away with playing a lot more inexperienced younger team if he wanted to. But I don't think I can't really see him doing that. To be honest, I think he'll want to get that win in that third place finish.
There you go. That's what Big Johnny N thinks. Andrew, what do you think is going to happen tomorrow with regards to squad choices, and what should he do?
I just think.
Did he rest the whole first 11? As Brian's just thrown out here.
I don't think 10 hours can do. And in other games where he could have rested players, he hasn't. He's kept virtually the same 11. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to remember which game it was. I think was it Rashford and Casemiro were on the bench, and they were brought on, and they asked him afterwards, well, were you not thinking about giving them a rest? He said, well, no, I'm always going to bring him on anyway. So I'm like, he wants to keep those players informed. I think, like John Neville said, I think one or two changes, but it's not going to be wholesale. I just think Ten Hag wants that consistent lineup, out on the pitch, and he'll be going for the win. Like I say, always taking a risk in games. Players can get injured, but can get injured in the FA Cup final as well. So, like I say, you want those players that have, been out there all season, carrying on their good form as well. So, but no, I don't see. You never know. 10 odd might surprise us all tomorrow, but I don't see it. But yeah, not wholesale changes.
Fair points again, Dan. It's one of those interesting ones, isn't it? Because I know if I was playing Football Manager right now and I was in this position, I would be resting most of the first 11. I know that I would, because I wouldn't want any suspensions. I wouldn't want any injuries. But the fact is, the real world is not Football Manager. We do those things because we're trying to beat a computer game. We're not doing it because we're dealing with 11 human beings and actual emotions and all that sort of things. It's all a simulation. There's no simulating this. If people say rest the first 11, for a start, I really don't know who would put in goal instead of David De Gea at the moment. I'm not convinced really by. I know we've got Tom Heaton, but I'm still not convinced.
Jack
by
Butland
that.
as well. There's Jack Butland.
Not convinced by that either. Thank you very much. This is my point I'm making. He is the best goalkeeper we've got at the club, and there is nobody else at the club that I want between the sticks. And therein lies the problem with regards to the goalkeeping situation at Man United. But thank you for your contribution, everybody there. I don't mean to be rude, but that's what I'm getting at. I don't feel like we've got those people there, and it's not the time to be playing them. But having said that, looking at all of the other positions, I mean, Boxer's put here about the front three: Garnacho, Elanga, Pellistri. It's potentially a chance, and this to me smacks of the sort of game that Alex Ferguson would have died for, because he loved that opportunity just before the end of the season to blood some youngsters to see how they get on in the first team. And someone like Pellistri, who we've been mentioning a lot lately as having a potential future at the club, this is really the sort of game we had hoped to see someone like him performing against a Fulham side that will likely go out and want to finish on a bang. Is that not really the route we need to go down? Like Tom Heaton, Jack Butland, they're all about 80 years old, so they don't need that bringing through. But someone like a Pellistri absolutely could benefit from that. Yeah,
for sure. I just think it's just something in the back of my head. I don't know whether he'll do it, because I agree with 100% what everybody said in terms of he's had chances and hasn't done it this season. I just think with the final on the horizon, he's just in such a lose-lose situation here, because if he rests everybody and we start slow against City, they'll say that he shouldn't have rested everybody. He's knocked them out of whatever form they was in. They should have played. And if he doesn't rest them and we start slowly, they're going to say, well, why didn't he rest him? He had a perfect opportunity. So it's not an easy choice for him. The stance I would take is it's probably going to be Heaton's last. He's probably going to leave. So it's a nothing game. I get that we can finish third instead of fourth, but ultimately it makes not a lot of difference. I would be resting players that really you can't afford to lose. So you can't afford to lose Fernandes for the final. There's absolutely no way we want to be playing the final way out Fernandes. Rashford's another one. You want to be wrapping him in cotton wool for the final. I would say the same about the likes of Varane. I'd imagine Luke Shaw's not going to play because he's already injured. I don't know whether he's trained or what, but he was injured last game, taken off. You'd wrap him in cotton wool. I just think it's a perfect opportunity to maybe bring in a few players that deserve a chance. We've spoke about Pellistri and Elanga this season. For me, neither have been given a chance this season to what we talk about Ferguson. Ferguson threw these players in when we were challenging for titles. I can always remember Makeda against Aston Villa. That was a title charge, and he chucked him on, and he scored an absolute worldie. Was it 2 games in a row, if my memory's sharp on that one?
2 league games in a row.
Yeah. So Ferguson would do that.
They have Porto in between both.
Yeah, but he would do that at any point. And this is what I was saying earlier about the transfers. I just don't think F's there with the squad fully yet. I think he's still struggling to trust them fully. I just hope that he takes the opinion that it's ultimately not that important. And to be honest, a rotated team at Old Trafford should still have enough to get the points at against Fulham. Obviously, a good team, and they've had a really good season. I just think there's certain players, in my opinion, that we should be wrapping up in cotton wool that we can't do without for that final. And in argument of you there, Barry, David Hay would be one of them, because the last thing we need is him pulling a groin and us having Butland and Heaton in net for the FA Cup final.
I mean, it's a fair point, but I still don't want Butland and Heaton anyway. No. Thank you very much for your contribution. As I say again, one question before we just have a brief chat about Garnacho. If you could pick one player who you think must play tomorrow, who should it be and why? John Commode.
Maguire, to give him a goodbye.
Okay. John Neville?
One player who must play. It's a good one, that.
I've come up with quite a few today. I think it's not practice.
I forgot to add, because I'd rest Varane as well.
I'll say Martial, so we can hopefully get another tap in, might just give him a bit more confidence for the cup final.
I like that idea. That's good. Connor's gone for the Phil Jones point that was made earlier on, but he is ineligible. He can't play. It was a bit odd, wasn't it? Because he had that tweet came out where he did his goodbye and everything, and he was hugging Kath and the tea lady and all those sort of people. And, it's a bit of an odd one for him saying goodbye at that time. And I think it seemed a bit odd because it was the end of the season. But it's a shame because, again, this was the perfect game for Phil to come in and get some minutes and have a proper goodbye. But there we go. Maybe you didn't want to do that. Andrew, who would you have chosen?
So going between two players here, but I'm going to go for Sancho. I'm just thinking he's growing in confidence. Another game under his belt, building that form up, and it'll be key for the. Well, if Anthony's not fit for the FA Cup final, then Sancho's, got his place in the starting 11 for the final serve tomorrow. Can, grow that confidence even more. And that form can get even better for him going into the final. So yeah, Sancho for me, I'd play tomorrow.
Excellent stuff. Box has gone for Iqbal because he still hasn't had a single minute of football this season, which seems like exactly what I was saying. A good chance to give a promising youngster a chance to have a game and see how they fit in with the big boys. Dan, who would you pick?
I would go Maguire as well because I think it's going to be his last game. Chance to hopefully get on the score sheet, win as the game and thingy. But I agree 100% actually with Box because I think the way we've treated some players this season, and Iqbal would be one of them, we've refused him a loan. We've not let him go to the World Cup. It seems a little bit strange. He deserves a little bit of playtime.
Fair point. And I would go for Pellistri for the reasons that I outlined earlier.
It's the World Cup.
Yeah, they had the under-21s tournament.
Oh,
yeah, he's not been allowed to go.
Not the real one.
Oh no, yeah.
But did they do the same with Garnacho though?
Yeah, I understand the Garnacho one though because he's getting minutes and he's been a team changer. But Iqbal's not had a single minute, so I don't understand why they didn't let him go. He's obviously being used on the training pitch as to make up the teams and stuff. Yeah. But I just think it's been a bit harsh because I think he was Charlie Savage was in a similar situation and they let Charlie Savage go on loan to Forest Green. So strange one.
It was. Which leads us to our last bit, and it was some news that I saw earlier on that came out, which was that Alejandro Garnacho has indeed been picked and chosen to play for Argentina. Now, it's not the first time he's been called up, but it's hopefully going to be the first time he's called up and actually appears for the Argentinian national side. Really, just a quick 1 minute for each of you. We'll go round in the same order we've been going in. We'll go from Johnny K to Johnny N to Andrew Wall and then finish with Dan. But how good is it for Garnacho? How do you feel about it? You're happy with the fact that he's been called up, and how important do you think that's going to be for the development of Garnacho, and not just the development of him as a player, but the development of him becoming a mainstay within the Manchester United squad? John.
Very much. So I think it's great that he's getting this experience. Unfortunately for him, he did just about miss out on the World Cup squad, but of course Argentina went on to win it. So we'll learn from players who've obviously just won Milcom, no more so than a certain Mr. Messi, So for him to be picked as a full international at 18 years old is just testament to his ability and what he's done this season. He's earned a new contract, and he just looks every bit like a player who's going to have a big future, hopefully with us lungs, so for the next few years. So yeah, it's really good for him to be picked again for Argentina, and hopefully he can get maybe a goal or two when he goes on internationals.
Absolutely. John?
Yeah, I think it's he's very much deserved. He's had a great season for us, and I think he'll do very well for the national team, and I think it'll help his game. Help him improve again for us next season. So I think it's good thing all round for everybody.
Fair point. Andy?
So it's good to see him get called up. He's definitely made a huge impact so far in his career at United, and expecting to make an even bigger one in his future with us as well. He's just, every time he gets on the ball at Old Trafford, he's like, he gets the fans off their feet. He's like, we just want to see what he's going to do next. I mean, I think Ten Hag said he's got all the skills he needs, but just maybe a bit more final product going forward, which he'll learn from in time, but as well. But yeah, it's good to see him be making his impact on the international stage as well as for United.
Danny boy?
Yeah, I think it's massive. He deserves it. He's made his choice between Argentina and Spain a while ago. He's been waiting for his chance patiently, and then obviously got injured. I think United rightly stopped him from going for the Under-21s World Cup as well, because they knew. I think he would have missed the FA Cup final. So it was a no-brainer, really. To be honest, I've not been this excited about a footballer for a while. I think Garnacho is going to be some player. I just hope he can keep his head screwed on. Like, we've seen a lot of young players come through the club that ultimately couldn't withstand the tale of time as such. So I'm hoping he can, because he really Andrew's right. He really does get you on the edge of your seat. You think he's going to do something every time he gets the ball. And I can't remember the last time. His pace is frightening as well. Absolutely frightening. I was watching the highlights of the Fulham game earlier on was it 3-2? And the pace he showed for that last goal is absolutely incredible. So I can't wait till next season and he's in full flow. I think he's going to be brilliant.
I've got to be honest, my excitement comes from Pellistri. I feel like a broken record today mentioning it, but I really do feel like he's got a little something there. Just think about the way that he jinks and uses tricks, but you're not wrong. Alejandro Garnacho has got some absolute techers in his locker, and it will be fantastic to see how he develops at United. And who knows, hopefully he will go out and have an absolutely awesome World Cup. So that's brilliant. Not World Cup, an actual international game. I'm thinking about the Women's World Cup, believe it or not, because that's coming up as well. It's been a very long day, boys and girls. A very long day. I've been on here since 2:00. So it's been a long old day. So getting a bit late, but there we are. So that's it. That's another Saturday Night Live taped up, put in the box, done, sorted, hitting the archives, and ready to be watched again, should you wish to do so. Again, my thanks to everybody here. So, John, well done for finally getting here. Well played.
Can I just make a point? I left the ground before Andrew today, and to see him at the start of the video just made me think.
And that's the difference between bought on a car.
Oh,
Yeah.
He was chauffeured, by the way, as well. So,
yes.
yeah. So there we go. And again, thank you, Johnny Neville. Always a pleasure, never a chore to have you on with us. Andrew, again, thank you as well. always a pleasure again to have you here. I'm not putting that on the chat, Connor, because this is not a Red Bull affiliated program. And of course, Dan, it's a pleasure always to be hosting with you. Thanks for popping on as well. Tomorrow, final day of the season. It's finally here. Are we going to finish third? Are we going to finish fourth? Does anybody really care? I think all we really care about is seeing Leeds go down. And that will make it a wonderful day, regardless of what happens in our game against Fulham. But either way, I'm sure that we will be on before Saturday Night Live again, because I feel like we're probably going to have a little realistic game. So we'll see if we can organise that, get a few people on to have a little chitter chatter about whether or not we can help to stop this horrific idea that they might end up with their very own Mickey Mouse treble. And I call it Mickey Mouse because it will never be as good as the original. The repeat never is. It never is. So thank you very much, all of you. It's been a pleasure, and we will see you all in the next one.